Hey everyone, the guys over at Shadowversity just did a video on if you were a fantasy adventurer, what would be the best armor? Though, I think a much better question would be, if you were a knight and you could ride any kind of animal as a mount, what dinosaur would you pick? Leave your answer in the comments below. But, getting back to their video, there were a few little comments I wanted to respond to and give my opinion because I have a different answer. Oh, and yeah, I built plate armor, so yeah, I know I'm biased for plate armor, but that just because I'm biased doesn't mean I'm wrong. So now, obviously, my answer is going to be, what kind of armor would you wear? As much plate as you can get away with it. After doing maybe a dozen lessons of Brewhurt, I am of the opinion that if you go into a real battle without armor, you're going to die fast, and you probably won't even see it coming. So yeah, being the new guy at a Armored Combat Club and getting slaughtered repeatedly kind of changes the way you view historical combat. If you've never if you've never experienced it, it's an educational experience, and I highly recommend it. So if you get the chance to go join a Brewhurt club, at least go try it out. It's like Dark Souls, but in real life, and you're being hit in the face. It is an educational experience, and you will see things differently afterwards. And you also develop a real appreciation for the value of an open-faced helmet when you start to hyperventilate and suffocate inside of a closed one. Yeah, really makes sense why so many helmets throughout history were open-faced. But yeah, I would be wearing as much armor as I can get away with. So the big restriction is going to be, how am I carrying it? Now, if I'm mounted on my T-Rex, hey, if it's my fantasy, I want to ride dinosaurs. But if I'm on foot, it's not just the weight of the armor that becomes an issue, it's the weight of all of the equipment that's weighing you down. Which is a major reason why we see a lot of infantry throughout history are not wearing full plate. And so, where I would look to for inspiration for a fantasy build for someone who has to carry all of their own equipment, either the Roman Legion, as if you didn't need another reason to think about the Roman Empire today, or Landsknecht, as if you didn't need a reason to think about the Holy Roman Empire today. So I would probably be going with something similar to a heavy Landsknecht build, because I like the more advanced armors. So what we really want is to protect the head and torso first. And we see a lot of that depicted in art, that infantry that are not as wealthy as the knights, a lot of them, as they start getting armor, what we see is they start protecting their head and torso first. Then I would go for probably the arms or throat first, and legs would be the last thing I armor, because I'd probably also be carrying a shield. And so you have the shield out front and your legs are a little bit more further behind you. Actually, that's the wrong stance. And that is reflected in history. So I'd probably be going with something like an open face helmet, because when you're not a complete tank, and even when you are, you still need to be able to see around you and breathe. And if you're not fully encased in steel, reducing your visibility becomes even worse of an idea. So I'd have some kind of open-faced helmet, full breastplate, backplate optional. I would probably armor my arms before I armor my back, unless I was worried about getting surrounded. But if you're getting surrounded, you're probably going to be having a very bad day, regardless. Yeah, because if someone gets up behind you, you're not having a good day. Okay, for my idea of a light armor, I would go for open-faced helmet, cuirass, throat defense, and arms. And I would want a cuirass that preferably has articulated tassets that go down to the knees, like a 16th century Landsknecht armor. And unlike a Landsknecht who is fighting out in the field and would do really well with a halberd or a pike, if I'm doing dungeon crawling, I'm probably going to go with a shield of decent size and some kind of warhammer. You know, just so I can crack anything I come in contact with, because, you know, swords don't always cut it. Of course, you can always have a sword and a dagger as backup, but yeah, I'd go shield and warhammer. Now, some of the comments the guys made that I want to address. Sorry guys, I didn't send the care instructions for that armor with it. If you just take that little bit of rust off with a bit of Scotch-Brite and wax it up with a bit of boot polish, it should be fine. And you can leave a little bit of a wax layer on it to help protect it. I find that works really well. I had a piece of hot blued steel kicking around the floor on my workshop for 6 months with a decently thick layer of beeswax on it, and it got 0 rust. But, you know, your mileage may vary. And on the subject of fixing that plate armor, I could probably do that in an hour, maybe 2. And I did a whole video on fixing plate armor, and you might be interested in it. And thirdly, yeah, that armor is not uncomfortable to wear at all. Because it's fitted to me perfectly, it was like a second skin. In fact, I got distracted and had to go do something while filming, and I left it on, and I almost went to the shops because I forgot I had it on. It is not inconvenience or uncomfortable when a piece of armor fits you perfectly. Now, as for mail, honestly, I kind of feel like, for the amount of protection you get in coverage, personally, I think mail weighs more than plate. But I've never actually handled proper riveted mail, but to be honest, comparing what mail I have had experience with next to plate, I think plate's honestly a lot lighter for the amount of protection you get, and I suspect probably the same is true with leather. Alright everyone, other than the other super important and serious question of what dinosaur would you ride, let me know in the comments what your loadout for a fantasy adventure would be. See ya.